I learned a valuable lesson today. I learned that you need to kick ass. Make sure nobody intimidate you or kill you. Nobody. This is Sparda's World Extra, and I'm here to talk about my overall thoughts on Assassination Classroom. It has finally ended. I read this chapter on March 16, 2016. The official release will be around March 21st. Or actually March 19th, since this one is actually going to be our early release of Weekly Shonen Jump magazine. So that being said, it has officially ended. It has 180 chapters, not including the spin-off that is going to come out in I'm not sure when actually. I think it's going to come out around April, but I'm not including them. I'm only including the one that we have, the main story, the main work, the main source of material. And it's finally has come to an end. And believe it or not, I wasn't even following this series until I heard that it was going to end in 5 chapters. So once that news broke out, I actually decided to make myself have a huge amount of time to watch the anime and read the manga. So I did both. I'm still continuing to watch anime. And as for manga, well, my journey has ended. It has officially ended thanks to the latest chapter that is now, it's just ended. I'm going to read a spin-off as well. Why not? I have time for those. But anyway, so what I thought about this series. Personally, I thought the series was pretty enjoyable. I liked it when I first read it. I thought it was pretty much what I expected when it comes to seeing the main character, the protagonist, you could call him, which is the one that's is targeted to be assassinated. It's rather strange. It's in a way it's a original take on the whole school theme, because the way how it's so over the top, how it's so funny to have a assassination in a classroom of middle school kids. So it's like it's like a special twist that the mangaka decided to put in this series, and it really works for its audience. His audience is massive. It's actually really popular in Japan. I guess it's popular in here in some way. I mean, I have seen it charted on the top 10 some week when it first released. And, after the following weeks, it actually stays in the top 10. But, regardless, Japan definitely favored the series a lot. In rankings, in sales, you name it. It's really popular there. So I had to see it myself. I always wanted to check it out. But I really didn't have that much time back then. And then again, once I heard a 5 chapter before it ends, I decided to read them all. And voila, I'm here. I finally caught up. I caught up like in a week or less than a week, to be honest. And that includes with the anime. So imagine that. With work and everything, it's just, I thought it would take me a much longer time. I thought I would miss the due date, but I guess I didn't. And so I was ready on my, I was already, prepared for the finale, and I'm really glad to read this series, and it's definitely ended on a good note, ended on a nice note, and surprisingly ended on a surprising note to me, which I'll get to that when we go step by step. This will be spoilers, so this is all the spoilers thing. I'm gonna write a review soon, and it will be spoiler free. So that one will be spoiler free. Here I'm gonna just talk about all the stuff that happens and what I like about this, what I find the pros of the series, what I find the cons of the series. So just know that I find it enjoyable. This was actually a pretty enjoyable, over the top slice of life in some form of way of school theme anime manga. Then of course the anime has not ended, but let's only focus on the manga in this case. So here we go. What's the story to begin? To begin with, what is the story? Well, the story goes like this. A mysterious creature, you could call it octopus if you like, or octopus-like creature, it ends up destroying a partially, almost the entire moon, down to the crescent, and pretty much threaten the entire world, or at least case to threaten the government that he will destroy the earth in a year. And his demand is to, what else demand? What does this crazy evil mind demand would be? Well, teach middle school kids the class 3E, which is supposedly deemed as the worst class, because of the class is full of failures and pretty much of a delinquents of its kind. And they are tasked with one important mission, is to assassinate the teacher. And that's the premise. It's wacky, it's crazy, and at the same time it's all fun. Now about this teacher, this creature, who is named Koro Sensei, and was translated the indestructible teacher. He's able to fly at the speed of up to Mach 20. So pretty much it makes it much challenging to assassinate him. But they have no time before the earth will get destroyed by him, and they have to not only learn how to find a way to assassinate him, but also learn the compassion with school and the teacher himself. Now that's a strange premise as you can get, but I actually really enjoyed the growth from the students and the teacher. Something that you of course we have seen a lot. The first thing that came to my mind when I started reading this was Great Teacher Onizuka, which is one of my favorite series of all time. But when it comes to this, it has its own take. This one, it goes more of a over the top style. Like the comedy is like not like a Gintama. I mean, there are moments when they break the fourth wall. There are moments they actually reference from another series, like such as One Piece, Naruto, and so on. Stuff like you would get to see in time at times. But the overtop part comes to the fact that we have a character named Koro Sensei. Let's just go Mach 20. There's basically like a speed of sound. It's insane that he could just go one country after another in a matter of a minute, or even under a minute. So you already get to establish that this series is not really meant to take it that serious, especially when throughout the series it doesn't take itself too serious. It never really gets to the moment. It just feels like it's trying to be something that isn't something that isn't like what is. It's not trying to be anything else but what it is, as in be a school theme, slice of life, over the top wackiness, comedy, and lighthearted moments that come here and there. But it never gets itself to the moment that they take it so serious and they lose their audience or lose their own kind, or what makes the series work. So the way how it was done throughout the whole series is good. It has a lot of slice of life moment when it comes to focusing on different characters, different situations. And it uses 28 characters, 28 students to be more exact. It uses 28 students, and a lot of them does have their own personality. They have their own situation. For most part, they all have their own reasons how they ended up in the class 3E. And with that mindset, the mangaka takes advantage of that in order to have a different kind of chapters, and take a different route with comedy, take a different route of lessons, which also a lot of chapters, it has their own life lessons. They always have a lesson learned, because this is like a school thing. Each chapter has time in their title, and it's always like whatever reference to the chapter is it about. Like, say for example, there would be like school, it would be like exam time, midterm time, Olympic time, and so on. So this series it goes its way to use the time of the class of the class. Since they have a year, they use their own time to create a chapter that doesn't need to be the main plot or focus on the main plot, just more of the what you would be learning from school, or something that you should be, something that some people can relate. And I believe this one could relate to a lot of kids at in Japan, or even anywhere in general. People could relate to this, and this is what I believe this series is popular in Japan, because it's something very relatable, something that even if it's over the top, the way how the students have to go through, the way how they had to go through their parents, their livelihood, their social, their environments, whatever the case may be. So that's something that's like a one of the big perks of this. The good for character wise, Nagisa, he's basically he's a the main character. You could argue he's the protagonist, but he's the main character. He usually does the narration for the most part of this entire series, and when he also grows up to get some elements like actually becoming like a more of a great assassin as the series continues going on. So it's something like he will actually get the trace of what the shonen character usually gets. So that's why I guess you could argue that he is the real protagonist, especially by the end, which you could actually see. You have Karma, which he's in another cool character. Is the funny thing is, when he was introduced, I was afraid he was going to be the typical rival character of the protagonist, Nagisa. It's something like that. It'll be so typical, the bully and everything. But it's a little bit twist to him. And, at the very least, by the time, once he was introduced, he's actually, he's already a cool guy. He's already somebody that you could like, and somebody that just, something that won't bother you so badly. Again, I thought we were going to have that trope of bully and stuff like the rivalry. I mean, they have a rivalry. They do have some sort of rivalry between each other in a different form. Not much of a brain aspect of the mentality, but more of the assassin approach, which is fine because of the way how they approach the way they approach that part, which is the time where they figured out what should they do with Koro Sensei. That's a reasonable way to have them, have their own rivalry, settle each other. But what steals the show? While the group of characters, they are actually pretty fun. A lot of characters have their own personalities, and it's good to see like all 28 students to be utilized in some form of way. And it's like again, it takes advantage of these students, and sometimes they could pair up the students in order to get a chapter out of them, and then get a life lesson out of them. But what steals the show is Koro Sensei himself. He's funny. He's a very likable character. He has the expression that he makes is what steals the show for me, because it's the expression he does. It really tells what he is, what it tells his emotion, or what tells what is the character actually going through, without really having him talking with his mouth moving or having a different expression, like a human expression. This one is more comical, but yet it works well with this kind of characteristic. I always like that one that he's like had the little derp face. It's so funny. It's one of my favorite ones. That, and the one he's like, like he's very it was his face. I'm not sure how you call it, but just think as like a face of like he's trying to hold no shame, but there is a lot to be ashamed of. It's like, I'm sorry. I don't remember all that those emotion expression, but it's definitely hilarious to see a lot of different ones that comes about, as well as the fact that his face could change color, and those moments could get funny. He also has a really nice backstory that you have to wait like for a while in order to get to to understand him, but it makes sense why they did it at the late timing, and it also connects to the reason why this series even happened in the first place. I thought that way was cleverly done, and it was really nice to see how much it feels like this series has really planned up for the most part, if not all part. If like when you look at the first chapter, first episode, even whatever the case, if you look at the very beginning, it feels like everything has been set up, has been planned, with the backstory hinted since the beginning of with Koro Sensei. The fact that these students never really never really vanish. I mean, like, usually you see the students like a bully students, but then you actually keep seeing those bully students, and then they actually, grow up. They actually evolve as times goes on. So it really feels like a lot of things has planned. And the fact that this series was very popular, yet it has ended, it goes to show you the mangaka did not want to go overboard and did not want to stay with the same thing. It does not want to, the funny thing is, it has a lot of advantage to use a lot of time. A year, you could have that's 365 days, unless that one happens to have like year. But the point is, it has so many days. You could have over 300 chapters. But this mangaka decided no, he's going to end it because that's how he planned it. And I admire that. A lot of people like to stretch, and they like to be forced by the editors, the company themselves, because how politics works backstage. So with this guy, with Assassination Classroom, I'm surprised that the series did not go as long as it wanted to, due to the high ratings, the sales. It's so good, and it didn't go on because, well, that's not the plan. The plan has been set. It is going to end when he already has in mind, and it's not going to stretch for any reason. It's not going to just fall to the money's sake. And I respect that. I respect his work, and if he's planning to do a new work very soon, I'm definitely going to read that one. Now let's get to the ending. The ending. To be honest with you, when my first impression, I thought the ending was good, but it felt something lacking. I thought that feeling. Maybe because maybe it was that I guess I was expecting something Big Bang, but this is a school anime manga. Yeah, granted, it's over the top, but again, not everything has to be that over the top. So reading again, and then I actually include the 5 chapter they hype up to be the end of all end, which it actually became a pretty nice ending. I actually enjoyed this ending. I like the fact that he decided to use these final 5 chapters as an ending. Whereas with Kishimoto Naruto, he decided to use the 5 chapter as a battle that's been anticipated for almost 15 years. And you use 1 chapter for the ending, then the other chapter for epilogue. And the epilogue never really covered the characters themselves, rather than their future new spawn characters, which is very advertising. And it's very, it's not the way that we all want. But with this ending, the final 5 chapters use the time to develop one last moment between Koro Sensei and the students, and it was really heartwarming, to be exact. It is actually a pretty saddening scene to behold, because it's like you really see how much they've grown. When you look at the beginning of the series, they all have an idea to how to assassinate him, not feeling confident themselves. And they would, as the series progresses, you see them, they bonding with the teacher. They're getting more confidence with their studies. It's a basic yet effective way of writing. And I'm really enjoying this entire ride. So with the final 5 chapters, the mangaka to take the advantage of his time and to have the first 2 chapter of the 5 to be the one main thing to be settled, and that is to assassinate Koro Sensei, which shockingly they did. And to be more shocking, to be more shocked, at least in my opinion, Koro Sensei did in fact remain dead. This is one of the kind of series that you would think, oh, he's not gonna stay dead for long. Maybe some miracle will happen, which something that would be a little bit debatable, controversy, whatever you want to say. But he didn't come back. He was dead. He's permanently dead. And that's the way how it should be. That's surprising if you ask me. In all honestly, I wouldn't mind if he come back. But I feel like the way how the first two chapters of the five really brought up a lot of emotions from the audience, from the characters within. It just feels like you can't go more. You can't just cop out there. You gotta go by that. You gotta go by there. And if you just if you get revived, it's it'll be nice, but it seems like a waste. And what it did with those two chapters was really well done. And I really like the fact they really go by. I really like the fact how they still concluded that they have to assassinate him, and regardless that they find some way that they don't need to, but they have to. It's really sad, but they have to do it, and under circumstances. And then the final three chapters of the five decided to use the mix of the actual ending, the graduation, and the epilogue, and it was nice. It was nice. Straightforward, good lesson, and everything feels like, yeah, my journey was worth it. This whole journey was worth it. It was a good ending. It was nice, and I enjoyed it. So what's the problem with this series? Well, of course, this is all opinion, so you gotta respect this. In my opinion, as much as I like these characters, I do believe these characters are good when they're in a group, because when it comes to individual, they don't get that much spotlight, and that's a bit of a bummer, because I really like these characters. I know their personalities, but at the same time, without any more focus or any development, it doesn't feel like you will actually remember them easily, because they're not memorable, I guess you could say. I don't want to say that, because I can remember some of them, but they're not that memorable since they don't really get portrayed that much. And when I say not much of a spotlight, that goes to with the main character as well. I mean, I know Kyle, it takes a plot twist to be relevant, so to say. But, I did enjoy her work earlier before that twist actually occurred. But, point being is that not many characters still get the spotlight. Same thing for Nagisa. Nagisa doesn't get too much of a spotlight, and that's why I guess I have a hard time to call him a protagonist. But that's just on me. Again, it's just the idea that there's just so many characters. 28 students, to be exact, by the end of the series. I think there's 28 students, I hope. But there's 28 students, and I know you can't focus everybody. I know you can't give everybody the same treatment. I understand that. However, the main characters should not be sidelined a little too much, or more like just have their role being the exact same thing. Whatever their professional, like Karma being scary, Nagisa being a narrator, and then be like, oi, and Kayano, being like, like loving sweets and stuff like that. But, with the not giving that much of a spotlight. I mean, Nagisa get the most, and then Karma gets the second most, which is still good. But, again, with so many characters, sometimes it distracts the other characters to get their spotlight or get more portrayalness. It's not even a word, guys, I think. But the more portrayal of their characters, they could have showcased more. They could have get more development. They could have get more out of it. It's like a lot of characters get the treatment of whatever they introduce. That's the only time they get development. That'll be the end of them. Not a lot. Some characters get more stuff out of it, but not all the time. Not all of them. A good 4 or 5 perhaps. Another thing about it is I feel like the problems get solved rather fast, and I'm not talking about the anime. The anime is a different story, but we're not talking about that. I feel like the problems get solved pretty fast. I guess because it's like, I don't know. I'm not saying it should drag out. I don't want to drag out, but I do think you don't need to You need to solve them pretty quick, especially where those moments are seems very something that you really wanted to explore more. Something that I got out of great teacher Onizuka, when they let the character to get that development or get that situation settled, and then when it gets to the climax, it feels very satisfying. Here it feels satisfying, but a little bit underwhelming, because it just feels like it just happened so sudden. Like when you get this great twist and then the problem gets solved and within like 4 chapters, it's like, oh well, that's cool. So it's like something that's, you just wish it kind of let this problem grow, and let this be a moment that you say, like, when it gets to the end, when it gets to the satisfying moment, the climax, you feel so blessed to see this ending of this problem, this conflict, whatever they may be. You know, you just want to feel like you want to see an epic story to be told. Sorry, but it just never really got that. At least to me, I never really got that. I mean, you get these arcs, which they could be good and they could actually last long and give you that a satisfaction that you really deserve. But, well, you know, I'm not talking about the anime. The anime, like, there's one arc you could do. They did it in 2 episodes, while in the manga they did it like in 10 chapters or maybe a little bit more even. So that's another thing. When I'm talking about Spotlight, you know, I'm talking about like not just the main characters, not just the students. I'm talking about other people as well. Well, maybe not with Karasuma and Bitch Sensei. Yeah, you'll find out who. Bitch Sensei. But, you know, they're the adults, the professors, let's put it that way. At least they get some, you know, a lot of spotlight they get, because they while they do share with the students, they do have their own dilemma as well. They have their own things going on. And, you know, you have one guy who's just pretty much a strong, tough bastard. And I'm talking about Cosmo. But regardless, the reason why I brought the spotlight back again is because here's the thing: we have this last arc. I don't know what's the title. I probably had to look up the title, but I feel like the last arc is underwhelming as well. The problem is, it feels like these build up with this antagonist. There's this antagonist that has been on the cloak for so long, and then by the time when they reach towards the 3rd act of the entire series, let's just say the 3rd act, when it gets to that, we see the under the cloak is Yanagisawa. He's pretty much the mastermind behind that project that Koro Sensei turned out to be. So, you know, we have him. They build it up more and more, especially with the Reaper guy, who was the apprentice of Koro Sensei. Because Koro Sensei is actually the god of Reaper, the original Reaper. But then this guy take the title, so now he's the Reaper. But that being said, it felt like they build it up, and then when the final arc comes in, where they decided to finally end Koro Sensei once and for all, you know, everything just felt like kind of quick, and it felt like it kind of somewhat anticlimactic. The thing about this is that, you know, the way how Koro Sensei got mad, and then he just takes out these 2 guys rather quick, mainly Yanagisawa, which, by the way, I don't understand why he has to live. I don't understand what was the point of that. I thought there would be like there's a reason for it, because there's going to be a way to bring back Koro Sensei. None. So what was the point of that? Is it because he just needs second chance? Why? There's no really need for that. Honestly, he should just stay dead. What's wrong with the time when he just get pushed and they get disintegrated by a barrier? We saw that happening, so why not keep it that way? It really has no merits to keep him alive. It doesn't. And, you know, we just saw him dead. It would have been fine with that, even though it felt rather odd for a guy like just get pushed to death like that. It still could have could have just settled with that. I don't care. Well, whatever. And then the Reaper part, it happened a bit quick as well. It kind of happened in a way. It was like, oh, I wish I didn't make that mistake. Perhaps in the afterlife I wouldn't. All right, see ya. That's the feeling I got. There's other parts that's not so thrilling. I kind of find it very unnecessary with the Kyle being killed off, quote unquote, and only to have Koro Sensei to do some miracle magic to her. That just seemed like way over the top. I know the series is over the top, but there's a boundary. There is a limit, and they crossed it with that one. It seems extremely goofy, even for his own kind, which is saying a lot. So, that's really all the cons. Like I said, this series focuses a lot of a school life theme, of course, slice of life. So if you really want to see the main plot, you want to see more of a main plot, you have to bear with it. But there are a lot of good comedy. Definitely the comedies is really good here. It may not be for everyone, but the comedy is fun. There's fourth wall breaking moments. There are references. There are just original comedy that it is really cleverly done, and I applaud that. And I really enjoy this series. This series is, for what it is, for the over-the-top school life thing, is really enjoyable. It's pretty enjoyable. I'm glad I read this series. And will I recommend it? Like I said, I recommend it if you like something to see, something like over-the-top wackiness, school theme. That seems like the ultimate formula of the stereotypical Japanese anime that you probably hear from friends that don't watch anime or anywhere else. It seems like it has the mixture of that stereotypical anime traits they have. But to each of their own. But it definitely has a lot of good factor. Like I said, the characters, the growth when it comes to when a group, they are pretty fun to watch. They're pretty fun altogether. Love the growth of their bond between students and teachers. And when I say teachers, I don't mean just Koro Sensei. Everything is really nicely done. The lessons is somewhat your basic lessons, but it's done in a nice way. When it comes to how to handle the situation, is actually done in a very clever, different way. It's pretty much enjoyable altogether. Now, despite the cons, like I said about the spotlight, things get solved pretty quick. The last arc was underwhelming. But again, nothing is perfect, and if you just watch it for just to see how much fun these students are, you'll be glad to read it. Would I ever collected the volume? Maybe. Who knows? I do enjoy the series a lot though, but when it comes to collected volumes, it's one of those things that I must have it because I love the series that much. But I don't know with this one. But it is definitely something to check it out for yourself. It's definitely a really fun time. Oh, by the way, the pairing. Oh, with the pairing stuff. Yeah. The ending really makes it out to be it's up to you. Now, the only canon one is Kurosuma and Irina Sensei. They actually got married together, which is nice. Congrats. And as for, a lot of different characters, you're out of luck there. It's kind of a shame that the series actually did a lot of pairing connection with the possible pairing, and only to not really do it at all. And not really pulling the trigger. Now, as for the main characters one, that one is all up to you. That is completely debatable on your end. What I got is two different sides of the story. Kaino didn't really get that much out of Nagisa after they depart from their middle school days, and they didn't really touch apart And the other hand, there is an interpretation that they are together. It's just that Nagisa is so heavily busy being a teacher, and it kinda, I don't know, unless it's just only metaphorically speaking, but it pretty much sounds like that Kayano is pregnant. I don't know if I go that far. I think she was just being metaphorically speaking. But I do think they might be together. They probably be together. There's the one strong argument, and I will give them this, is the hand-holding scene. The hand-holding scene, the way how it's transitioned to the school, their middle school, the Class 3E building. Right before that panel where we see the building and where we see Kayano doing her prayer. We saw hand holding. We see the dialogues. The dialogue match up well to what they did. It match up to that one guy is going off to work, which is the school. And you could think about Nagisa going to school. There you go. That's him. That's Nagisa is the one that's saying, like, I gotta go now. And the one with the everybody's already there, that'll be Kayano. It's like, everybody's already there. That means she's going to the school, and then boom, everybody's showing up. That's the strongest argument you could go off. And what I think, man, selfishly, I would say, yeah, they are together. Selfishly, though. But realistically, I don't know. I probably have to think over many times. You know what? I'll just say, yeah, they're together. Let's just go with that. Well, actually, maybe they're not. It's that the afterthought part is the real brain buster moment. Well, it's all up to you guys. But yeah, other than that, that's not really a pros and cons in my book. Could have been nice though, but what can you do? It's only an icing on the cake. So that's it for Assassination Classroom. I really enjoyed this series. Glad to know about it. So that's it for my thoughts on the series, and I'll see you next time for more. Take care.
Assassination Classroom